now time for this week's difficult conversation. Now, if you haven't seen it already, cafe chain Costa Coffee is facing a boycott, calling for the use of the way they use the trans mural on a company van. Now, the advert portrays a cartoon surfer drinking from a cup with two visible scars indicating that they have had a double mastectomy. Now, Costa says that the image celebrates inclusivity, but some activists think that the mural, which was created for Pride last year, promotes the surgery which involves removal of breast tissue to generate a masculine chest contour. So what do you think? I'm joined now in the studio by transgender teacher and spectator columnist Debbie Hayton. Debbie, thank you very much for joining me. OK, so let's just talk about this whole thing that's going on, because now we have people like Costa Coffee actually showing images of, and it was sort of like a cartoon character type thing, supposedly a young person with mastectomy scars, almost promoting or celebrating this as part of Pride. I mean, I want to get your thought on it. You're transgender, you've been through the whole process. Where do you stand with that?
Well, yes, you're right. But I'm also a teacher.
Yeah.
And I see a cartoon here of a young person depicted as a cartoon, and that is going to appeal to young people. And the message to young people is to have healthy breasts removed is something to be celebrated.
Why do you think that these outlets, people like Costa Coffee and, of course, in some respect, Bud Light, decided that they'd use somebody who's trans, and Nike did the same thing with their bras, even though Dylan Mulvaney, who they used as a man and didn't have a chest. Why do you think these brands are doing this?
Well, it beggars belief, doesn't it, really? Because when you see what the outcome is, we saw the Bud Light fiasco, where Budweiser's sales have dropped significantly. This is not something that's promoting the brand, it's damaging the brand.
You think that they would realise that, having seen what's happened to them, and not do this? Give me your take on this sort of creep into the mainstream of the whole trans ideology.
Well, I think people want to be seen to be kind. And a message has been created, and a picture's got painted of trans people as being the most oppressed group in society. It's not true. But this is what's been created, and people want to be kind to this marginalised and victimised group. But we shouldn't be doing this to trans people. We should be saying to people like me we'll just let you get on with your life in the same way that everybody else can get on with their lives. That's what we should be aiming for.
But what about all the teaching in schools now? So children as young as 7 now could potentially be told about this trans ideology and the process of transitioning. So the whole procedure is not necessarily the medical side of it, but it'll be taught to children as young as 7.
But it beggars the question, why? Why do children need to know this? Why has this become such an important topic which dominates the news agenda? It dominates discussions in education, dominates schools at times, and it's just bizarre.
Why are they doing it, though? Where's it? I mean, if you were to put your finger on where is it coming from, where is this coming from?
Well, it's coming from, I think, a desire to be kind by naive people who don't realise the damage of what they're doing.
Because I've been looking at I don't know whether you've read about this, a transgender, a girl called Chloe Cole. She's an American. She, at the age of 16, I think it was, she had double mastectomy, so the thing that Costa Coffee are promoting or celebrating in their literature or on their mural. And they cut off healthy breasts, and then she went on some hormone treatment as well. And this was because she was going through puberty. By the age of sort of 18, 19, she sort of realised that she didn't want to do this. But by this time, she had the breasts cut off, she had the scars, they'd actually moved the nipples higher so that they'd be in like a position where a man's nipples would be. And obviously they're no longer functioning breasts as they would be as a woman. She's realised that that was just simply puberty, and she's upset that the adults facilitated this, because that's what it is, surely. Well,
it is. It's facilitating abuse. And Chloe Cole is not the only one in this country. Sinead Watson spoke out this week about her experience of having breasts removed at such a young age before she really knew what it meant to be an adult. And children make mistakes about all sorts of things. And as adults, we've got a duty not to promote permanent, irreversible, damaging surgery to them.
To me, it's so clear and so obvious that this is not the right way forward. Because I know how impressionable young people are. So say my 6-year-old if I was to start talking about him and confusing him about gender ideologies and stuff, I can see that I could easily sort of... His brain is very malleable, he's very open to suggestion, and if the wrong person got hold of that conversation with him, even if their agenda was supposed to be a kind one, I can see that he would very easily be manipulated. And if you manipulate someone for a long time, it's very difficult to bring them back.
Yeah, and at that age, children are learning about the difference between the sexes, and they do learn the difference about what girls tend to like and what boys tend to like. But that isn't a binary. That is something that overlaps. We can all enjoy everything. But I worry that children who are perhaps gender non-conforming, to use that word, perhaps a bit unusual, perhaps different from the men, are being told that the reason for them being different is that they're the opposite sex. So a boy who doesn't like rough and tumble, well, perhaps you're a girl, or a girl who likes climbing trees, you're really a boy. This is dreadful, and this is the message that children are getting in some places.
And it's odd, really, because we've always said that surgery would never be the answer to things. So if somebody says, oh, I feel too fat, you'd be like, the last thing you want to do is surgery. But for somebody who is trans, why is the answer surgery? I mean, for you, in your experience, was that the answer for you?
Well, not really, but it didn't solve my problems, didn't surgery. My problems were solved when I finally accepted who I was and understood who I was. It wasn't surgery that did that, but I do remember in the time running up to surgery, the compulsion to have that surgery was just huge and overwhelming. It was almost as if the availability of the treatment drove my demand for it. And then I look at children, I look at young people, and this is almost sold as a magic cure for all ills. It's an elixir. And to say, well, this surgery will solve all your problems, I can understand how it drives that compulsion in children to have this surgery. And then when the surgery isn't available, as it isn't at the moment, where does that leave children? Probably in a mental health catastrophe.
Because once you've got to the destination, I'm somebody like that. Once I want this, I want this, when I get there, I'm like, oh, and then I want something else. Yeah. See, and I don't know whether that's because I haven't grown up or whatever, but that's why I'm single, because I'm like, hey, and then I get it, I'm like, I quite like that. So, do you not think that that's a bit of it as well? Like, there's a goal, there's a destination, and you get to the destination, and then you're like, oh, I'm still me, I'm still the same, nothing's happened.
Well, it is. The whole process is, first of all, you change the way you dress, then you change, you grow your hair out, then there's hormones, and then there's surgery. And it's a process of all those individual goals. I'll tick this off, I'll tick this off, I'll tick this off. And when I get to the end, I'll be complete. And I wasn't. Is
it slightly addictive, the process, the chasing, the thing that they say that you're going to achieve, and in your head you were like, I've got to do that, I've got to... Was that...
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, as I say, I've described it as a compulsion, and it's an addiction that grows on you.
And then now you've done it, are you happy you did it, or do you have any regret in terms of...
I have regrets. Especially the impact it had on my family was huge. And also, it's left us as a family in an odd position. And for my children, for example, you know, all parents can be embarrassing, but some are more embarrassing than others. You know, and we can laugh about that, but it's put them in a difficult position. Do I regret it? It's hard to say. I explained to people that if I knew in 2011 what I know now, I wouldn't have transitioned. But possibly, I only know now what I do know because I transitioned. I had to learn the hard way, as my grandmother would have said.
So what would you say to those who are saying that children as young as 7 should be taught all the stuff about transgender, and that this is a fair enough age that they'll allow them to receive treatment according to reports? So that is psychological help. I don't think there's any actual medicalisation of it in a sense, but psychological and clinical help.
Well, at least they are putting in an age. GIDS, the Tavistock clinic, didn't have an age under a lower age limit at all. And I read some reports to say that in 2011, 2012, 15 3- and 4-year-olds were referred. Well, these are kids, they can't tie their own shoelaces.
It's absurd.
So where's that coming from? So at least there's a young age limit. But on the other hand, why are these 7, 8, 9-year-olds being referred? If it's simply psychotherapy, then that can be provided through CAMHS, if CAMHS is properly funded, that is. My concern is not so much for 7, 8... Well, it is for the 7, 8-year-olds, but children of all ages. They're getting continue to get referred to this gender clinic, and then it's what comes next. What does this gender clinic mean?
Well, Debbie Hayton, I could talk to you for ages on this. It's a subject that will continue to roll because there seems to be some obsession with it. And I don't know why these adults are pushing it on the children. That's the way I see it. Debbie Hayton, thank you very much. It's very good to talk to you. That's Debbie Hayton. She's a transgender teacher and also a Spectator columnist.